What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Setless Strength Podcast. This is a new one for the podcast because we're on location, and it's the first time I'm having guests on the podcast, which is very serendipitous because the last podcast I did in 2019, I only had two ever guests, and it was Zach Farr and Andrew Zaragoza. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. So
thank you.
So the podcast has peaked. Podcast has peaked. So we're in Las Vegas. We're here for CJI 2. We just finished up day one yesterday. Like almost a 24-hour day for us. It was absolutely insane. And Andrew, I want to ask you, because you were front row for the entire event last year. What has it been like watching CGI 2 this year?
So, again, I don't know if it's me having like super high expectations or maybe even CJI 1 was like that unicorn, right? Like I have laid out this crazy, like that was the greatest thing ever. And it was all this. And I don't think about like the lulls in between, or I don't think about some of the, some of the hassle that is, CJI 1. And so anyways, what I'm saying is I had this crazy expectation, like, dude, 2's going to be better than the first one or whatever it may be, right? Without CJI 1, CJI 2, I believe, is still one of the most exciting events we've ever, obviously ever attended, but people have ever seen. But it has that Hangover 1 versus 2 issue. If you've ever watched Hangover 2, it's a freaking incredible movie. But people are like, it's not as good as the first one, bro.
Yep. Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, but if you separate those two, they're great. I'm making excuses for CJI 2. But all that to say, I think it's a phenomenal event. It does feel like there's less people this year than last year. Mm-hmm. But overall, though, I think this is my first time experiencing, obviously, but like actually watching the Quintet like rule set, and it's exciting, dude. I loved seeing Greg Souders out there. Like, who's he gonna call up next? Who's he gonna call up first? And to call out Pat Downey, what a gangster move! Like that worked out really well. So the chess match between the coaches, I think, is huge. I think that adds another really cool layer. It's like Phil Jackson against like whoever, right? Like, okay, he's going to school you. So like, you have to just like figure out and do your best to not get smoked by the coach, Yeah. Like, so I really like that strategy of it. But yeah, overall, man, I'm having a great time, and I don't care what anybody's saying online. I would not substitute this experience for anything.
For sure. Mm-hmm. For sure. Zach, last year, you and I, we did both events. We went to ADCC and we went to CJI. And so you're able to see kind of like the similarities and differences between the two. So looking at your experience with ADCC last year and CGI last year, how does that compare to CGI 2 this year?
Yeah, 100%. I think having that comparison between the two last year shed so much light on how amazing of an event CGI 1 was. Mm-hmm. I mean, just the response, the crowd response at ADCC versus CGI was night and day.
Yeah.
It was so much different. And I think it was a really cool thing to be able to compare the two. And now this year, ADCC obviously isn't happening on the same weekend. So now we get to see a little bit of the difference. And I think to your point, Andrew, there is less people at CGI 2 than there was at CGI 1. I think that's part of the reason, is everyone who was going to ADCC was also trying to get over to CGI 1. When that was happening. But I'm on the same page with the Hangover 1 and Hangover 2 analogy here, because it is a little bit lower energy than it was last year. However, it is still so awesome. It has been amazing to watch.
Yeah. It has been pretty sick. And last year, it seemed like just the beef between ADCC and CJI fueled so much of like the hype behind the first one, which was great. And this time, it doesn't seem like it has that same kind of beef. I know like Craig is beefing with the UFC quite a bit, but it doesn't. No one was going to the UFC event the day before and then showing up to CJI. Yeah. So it is a little bit different. And I remember last year, we went to CJI day one on Friday night. And then Zach and I, we went to ADCC day one Saturday morning. And it was a bigger venue. So like I can't tell if there were actually less people, but it looked a lot more empty compared to CJI day one. And then just the energy from ADCC day one, even with some of the big matches, like the energy was kind of there. And then right around like 4:30, all these people started leaving and everyone was outside getting Ubers and no one could care less about the ADCC matches that were still going, and everybody was going to CGI.
Yeah.
And CGI day 2 was so insane. And then Zach and I went to ADCC on Sunday. Everyone was cooked. Everyone was like, was so low energy. And I don't even think we stayed for the whole thing. I think we were there for 2 hours. We're like, let's go home. This is,
well,
I have no more energy left over.
I remember when we were talking to DeAndre Corby Corby, as he's getting ready to compete, all the competitors are just on their phone watching CJI, and they're just like, dude, I wish I was there, not here. Like that's again shows like how great like CJI 1 was when, you know, essentially the Olympics of jiu-jitsu, they're like, I want to go there.
Yeah.
You know, the competitors are like, I want to be over there. Like that's pretty sick.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So just looking at what happened yesterday, what was your guys' first impression of like maybe like one or two highlights from what happened yesterday?
Yeah, for me, because again, I train in the gi, so if anybody locks up my legs, like I want nothing to do with you. I'm like instantly like, nope, get away from me, like trying to like just lock you in somehow with like some kind of pressure or something. And this is what I was telling Josh yesterday. I forgot who it was, like which team or whatever, because there's so many different athletes. But seeing how some of these guys that have really good defense, how they're cool with letting the other guy kind of like still hang on to their legs.
Yeah.
The best analogy that I created from that was like if you watch a super high level boxer, insert one of the GOATs, you know, Floyd Mayweather, anybody. As their opponent's punching them, they don't freak out and run away. They just like look at the glove and like watch it get this close. But they don't like run away because they're going to then react and then throw a counter punch. With these freaking leg lock assassins, they're just kind of doing the same thing. They're just going back and forth. Like, okay, I'm going to let my leg hang out over there, like next to your hip. You're not going to do anything with it, but you are also within striking distance. So they're just constantly setting things up. And I just admire the heck out of it because, again, like I'm still fairly new to the whole thing, but like, especially the leg lock game, like in the game, we don't really train it that often. Me and my boy Chris, we have been doing it a lot more. But when I see that, I'm like, dude, they're so comfortable, like on the edge of death. You know, like that's crazy to me. Like, at what level of skill development do you get to where you're like, no, I'm okay allowing this killer to like hang on to my one of my limbs, right? And so that was like a highlight for me to be like, okay, you know, it's not the end of the world if somebody grabs a hold of my leg. Yeah. You know, like so that was a big eye-opening moment for me.
Nice. What about you, Zach?
Yeah, I think I made this comment yesterday, but it almost seems like, and keep in mind, I have the least amount of jiu-jitsu experience out of everyone here, right? But it seems like guard retention and leg lock defense has gotten so advanced that everyone is comfortable, you know, on the edge of a leg submission or a leg lock of some sort. And everyone's also comfortable just retaining guard for a full 8 minutes. So I think that played into the cadence, and it was a little bit slower, at least for day one. We'll see what happens on day 2. But it was very interesting. It almost seems like the sport has advanced so much that everyone's defense is now at such a top tier level, at least for these elite level grapplers, that they can just survive and not be in danger for the most part.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point because there were only 3 submissions yesterday, and 2 of them were really controversial. I mean, I don't think they were that controversial, but at least in the event they were controversial. And to see so many draws happen is crazy. And I remember this was probably like 10 years ago or maybe 9 years ago, Eddie Bravo started doing his Eddie Bravo Invitational events. And those were usually 16-man tournaments, and it was all in one night. And those events were so awesome. And so they would have like some pretty big names, like Gordon Ryan did a bunch of them. Gary Tona did a bunch of them. Craig Jones did a few. And what was cool was that, like, as you followed some of the top guys through to the finals, they did kind of build like a little bit of a highlight reel. So if you were Gordon Ryan, ranked number one, you're the number one seed, you're pretty much always going to get the lowest seed if that's how they're seeding the bracket. So Gordon submits that guy really fast. So you build a little bit of hype and excitement. Then he submits the next guy pretty fast. Then when he gets to the finals, that might be like a really, really tough back and forth. But you've seen all these like highlight finishes up to that point. And with this event, everyone is so good. There's no scrubs. So it seems like if everyone's so good, then like it's very, very competitive, where sometimes the matches could be a little bit more boring because no one's getting highlight reeled or no one's just getting completely walked over.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But you do have some of those big upsets, like what happened yesterday with Giancarlo and Taylor Pearman. Andrew, when you saw it right away, what was like your first initial reaction?
Holy shit, my favorite grappler in this whole tournament just got tapped. That was like my first thought right there. Was like, I cannot believe like that just happened. But I was like, dude, this is incredible. Like, I stood up on my feet. That was like the first time I lost my voice. And I was just like, this is unbelievable. Like, I did not see that coming at all. In my head, I'm like, dude, Giancarlo's going to run the table. Like, they're not going to be able to fuck. Like, nobody's going to mess with him. Then I seen that, I was like, wait a second. And then I was like, I can't believe he tapped. And then we're watching the replay and I'm like, oh, dude, I don't think he tapped. And then they changed the angle to the front one. And it was like a tap and then like a back off and he grabbed the leg. And I'm like, oh, you don't, I don't know, man. The best comment I saw on Instagram was somebody said he tapped and then realized, oh, I'm actually not in that bad of shape. And it's like, oh, dude, like that makes a lot of sense. Like, so yeah, I get it, but I'm still saying that was a tap for sure. Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, my very initial reaction was I did not think it was a tap. It seemed like a visceral reaction to the position that he was in. However, after seeing some of the replays, it was very definitive that there was at least a singular tap in there, if not 1 3/4 tap. You know? So that was my initial reaction. I definitely did not think he tapped, but I think to your point, the comments online, and we talked about it a little bit, is maybe they're so used to getting in a specific position and tapping early that was his initial reaction, but he didn't actually mean to in this competition setting, right?
Yeah, I think it's really tough because like there's so much on the line, and I've heard John McCarthy say this in a podcast, and ironically, he wasn't the one who was reffing that match, but he said, as the ref, like you can't, like when you make a decision, you have to immediately like 100% commit to that decision, because if you go back, it like causes so many issues. And so I don't know if the ref was hesitant to like, I'm going to wait until I see a guy like yell or like tap 5 times because his leg's getting broken before stopping it. But then you run into that issue where Taylor lets go and he starts walking around hyping the crowd up, which is super smart. Like, if you get the crowd behind you, like that is, I think that has a pretty significant psychological effect. And so then the action ends. So then as the ref, you're like, okay, now this is a big enough issue. Everyone's looking at me to figure out, how do I resolve this problem? They do the replay. The whole crowd's reacting. Everyone's booing Giancarlo. So then you're just like, okay, what's the decision? And I think they did make the right decision.
Yeah. I did see some comments of people saying like, oh, like you gotta like make sure, like the ref has to make sure that he's tapping. Like if I was him, I would have let him like scream or whatever it was. And it's like, okay, dude. I understand that, but also, like, do you really want to be the ref that was responsible for someone like Giancarlo not being able to compete for the rest of the year because you allowed him to get his leg ripped off? You know, like, I don't think that was, I don't know. Again, I'm never going to be in that situation where I got to make that call. Yeah. But I definitely wouldn't want to be that guy that, like, was he tapping? And because then everybody, right, what's the response? Obviously he's tapping. He wouldn't be doing this motion if it wasn't for him tapping. So it puts the ref in a really, really tough spot. But I think it was the right call. And then, dude, hyping up the crowd and all that, like, again, politics or whatever you want to call it, but I don't think after that the judges are going to be like, actually, no, that was not a tap, and then have the crowd go crazy again.
Yeah, the social pressure is wild.
Yeah. Before we go further, though, I wanted to ask you guys in regards to like some of the double eliminations and that sort of thing. Sort of like what you were saying reminds me of early UFC stuff where it was like, okay, this guy's a striker, this guy's a grappler. And then like we've seen how that worked out, right? All of a sudden now everybody became a grappler. And now everybody's in everything. Do you think that with jiu-jitsu, you can no longer be just the leg lock guy? You can no longer be the wrestler. Like now that everyone's learning, everyone's kind of melting into the same type of athlete.
I think it depends on the rule set. And I think Craig Jones made a good point when he talked about folk style wrestling versus freestyle wrestling. And he said the guys that go into the UFC that come from a freestyle wrestling background, he said like they don't have that great of ground control because the action, based on the rules, the action mostly stops once you hit the ground. There are like some grappling exchanges on the ground, but once the takedown happens, most guys are just trying to prevent being turned. And after, I forget how many seconds, like 10 seconds, if there's no turn, they stand back up. So that creates certain habits and certain skills and strengths that kind of lean in one direction versus in folk style wrestling. If the takedown happens, you just keep wrestling until that period is up. And so that creates some new skills and an emphasis on some other kinds of strengths. And so I think sometimes with the rule set, someone like Pat Downey going against Luke Griffith, who took second at ADCC last year. Luke beat Victor Hugo on B team recently. Luke has beaten Kynan. He's beaten a lot of super, super tough guys. And so if Pat Downey goes in and knows like the rules are 8 minutes, I don't get submitted and we take this guy off the board, that's a lot different than there's 8 minutes or like 20 minutes and I have to not get submitted or I have to score a certain amount of points. Like I think the rules dictate a lot more of how the matches end up turning out and where someone's skills present themselves.
Okay.
And we saw that a lot in that first matchup with New Wave and American Misfits. To send a guy out like Pat Downey and just ice out Luke Griffith is insane.
That was sick.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have a whole lot of grappling experience or jiu-jitsu experience, I should say, compared to a guy like Luke Griffith, you know?
Yeah. So that's weird because I was so invested in that again, because like we know the Corbys, we know Coach Souders, and so I was so hyped for that. I wanted that I thought like, dude, if this becomes like the biggest upset in history or whatever, and so I was really invested in that. And so watching Pat take out Griffith, like literally take him out because like, nobody won. So he took him out. So now nobody else on the team has to deal with Luke. I was like so amped up. But then as the night went on, I was like, whoa, like this sucks.
Yeah.
But in that moment, I was like, dude, I can't believe like Pat really, really stepped up for that one. And that was sick.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, talk about that matchup. Because what I said right as I started that, I'm like, oh, this could be the craziest upset. And dude, they were very close to winning that. And so it's like, oh, shoot, that maybe wasn't the biggest lopsided matchup that I was thinking that a lot of other people were thinking. Because I was talking to guys at my school and they're like, oh, yeah, man, they got such a hard first round. It's like, dude, they almost won. Like, how sick would that have been? But yeah, what's your take on that first match, dude?
I so badly wanted American Misfits to do so well. And on paper, like even though on paper they're probably the weakest team, like if you look at how many of those guys have world titles, how many of those guys have ADCC medals and all that stuff, on paper they would be the weakest. But you think about like, okay, if someone like Pat Downey doesn't get submitted, you already take a killer off the board. That's pretty good. And then you have, they have Wagner Hosha on their team, which Wagner's a legend. However, he doesn't have like as many submission wins compared to someone like Mika or compared to someone like Giancarlo. So if someone like Elijah Dorsey can just not get submitted, there's another guy that's off the table.
Yeah.
And so as like it kept going on, I kept thinking like, oh my gosh, like they could really like pull this off. And I think like Greg did an awesome job just finding like to be able to have his guys be prepared to do what needed to be done. They didn't get the win, which is disappointing, but no one on their team got submitted, which is huge. No one, like they were on paper, like supposed to all just get wrecked, and they didn't, which was crazy. And so I think some people might look at the result and be like, oh, they didn't do that good. But to have no one on Team America's get submitted is pretty incredible when you're going up against the number 1 seed team, which is pretty wild.
Yeah. So I said Giancarlo's my favorite grappler, my favorite athlete in the whole thing, but DeAndre Corby might be my favorite person in the whole bracket because he's such a good dude. What was that dream matchup like for you guys? Because seeing him versus Mika was just like, oh my god, like dude, I was hoping that I could see this, and then there it was. And so my initial reaction, I actually text Professor Sean, the guy that's instructed me the most. I was like, dude, what do you think? And he's just like, dude, DeAndre did so good. He was right there with Mika. I'm like, in my opinion, that like solidifies standard jiu-jitsu. It solidifies ecological or constraints based, whatever you want to call it. In my opinion, it becomes undeniable after watching that match.
Yeah, 100%. I like when DeAndre came on Mark Bell's Power Project. After meeting him, I was like, I got DeAndre Corby's season tickets. And I'll be a season tickets holder for life.
I bought his rookie card right away.
Yeah, absolutely. What was your take? You're like, you don't have as much, like, you're not watching every single match that ever gets uploaded. So from a spectator's perspective for you, knowing that New Wave was really strong and not being as familiar with the guys from Team Americas, what was that like for you to see them actually like hold their ground a little bit?
Yeah.
New Wave.
Yeah. Thank you for the preface, right? Because I don't even know half the names on the roster here. However, that was one of my favorite matches of yesterday so far. It was so cool to see how each player was able to hold out and to hold on to the specific positions that they were trying to either acquire or defend against. And so not knowing a ton of the background with a lot of these athletes, I thought that was a fantastic matchup.
Watching Giancarlo just bully the shit out of Gavin was like, oh my gosh. But then again, to the ecological approach, to Greg Souders, to standard jiu-jitsu, he was in a really bad spot, pinned up against the wall, and all of a sudden he just, I don't know how he did it, but he ends up like almost on the offense, right?
Yeah.
Having a much bigger grappler put you in a bad spot, and then all of a sudden now it's like you have his leg, like, dude, like right there, again, I know he lost that match, but I'm like, what a testament to this approach to jiu-jitsu.
I think I misspoke. I think I said no one on Team America's got submitted, and I think that's because subconsciously I'm trying to scrub Gavin getting submitted
That's right.
out of my mind. But you're right. I misspoke. I was wrong on that
again, though, like, okay, so they're down one, and they still almost came back.
Yeah.
And like, that's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I think the when I first heard that they were going to use the Quintet format and they were making some of these changes where you could specifically call out, you can make changes in real time on who you're going to send out to face the guy that stays in the middle.
Yeah.
It reminded me a lot of high school wrestling and wrestling dual meets. Those in high school, there's 14 weight classes, I think, or 12 weight classes. And I always forget how it's set up, but you do have a little bit of like some wiggle room where if you have two guys that weigh in for the same weight class or can qualify for the same weight class, you can change who you send out. And I think it volleys back and forth on which coach has to send their guy out first. So if Zach and I, if Zach weighs 160, so he could wrestle at 165, he could also wrestle at 172 or whatever the weight class is. And I weigh in at 172. If the opposite coach sends out his guy first, and it's a guy that Zach has already beat and I've lost to, Zach can take my spot instead and move up a weight and compete against him last minute. So there is like some gamemanship to how people are sent out and stuff. And I think that is sometimes like so much fun to like strategize. It's like, okay, statistically, this guy might be able to, he gets sent out instead, or like, maybe we'll see something happen where like a guy, like if it is New Wave and B Team in the final, I believe Nicky Rod has beaten Luke before, but Luke has beaten Victor Hugo. So maybe like they send out like Victor Hugo's in there or something happens where like then they send out Nicky Rod to, avenge Victor Hugo or something like that. So I think that aspect adds some good entertainment to it. But I did want to ask you guys this, since we just watched the women's matches, which have the format of CGI last year, where it's 3 5-minute rounds, and those matches were pretty freaking exciting. Yeah. Do you have a preference on the format of the 3 5-minute rounds versus the team format?
I was actually just going to speak on this because you were talking about rule sets and how much that can change the strategy that you kind of deploy. And so I think there's so many layers of strategy in this quintet format, right? So it might have detracted a little bit from the quote unquote excitement of the matches on the first day, but I'm super excited to see how it pans out on the second day. Because to your point with the quintet rule set, right, there's not only the layer of forecasting, who's going to be fighting who on this semifinals, but then you have to look forward into in the quarterfinal, and then you have to look forward into the semifinals and then the finals as well, right? So you want to keep your guys uninjured. You want to make sure that there's matches and you're positioning your team in a way so that the entire team can win. Versus when we went back to the old format of CGI 1 for the girls matches, then you saw like the leg lock queen, right, Helena, and now she's just doing forward pressure pretty much the entire 3 rounds, right? And she'll go to a leg lock and then come right back up on top. So that kind of plays into the well-roundedness of you don't have to do just one thing to stall out in order to just eliminate the other player on the team so that your team's in a better position. So I'm excited to see day 2.
Yeah, dude, I know. I was pretty hard on this current like setup, but then like after what you explained like off air, I was like, all right, yeah, actually, you know what? Zach's right. Like this could end up being like pretty freaking epic. But as I'll say, as like a casual, jiu-jitsu athlete, I definitely like the previous rule set. So the one that the women's division's doing. I just think that 5-minute spurt is very exciting. And then also like the rounds, and like, okay, so we went hard 5 minutes and then all of a sudden, boom, the judges are saying, I'm behind.
Yeah.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts. What's going on right now? Although that can still lead to controversy. Like, I think like the Helena's her match last night, left some questions in the air. But I think that is so exciting. And I think that's why last year was super exciting. But I think this rule set can be very, very exciting as well. But again, I think some of the matchups were tough. I think the fact that it is a 2-day event, I think all that plays and factors into what Zach is saying. It's like, dude, I can't, like, for lack of better terms, blow my wad all on day 1, right? Like we plan on winning this, so we have to come back and do it again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know if that's playing not to lose as opposed to playing to win, because like, in a team aspect, it's me with all these other guys trying to win this big purse versus if I go out there by myself, I'm putting it all on the line because I'm going to win $1 million.
Yeah.
I think that also in a weird way kind of messes things up. But overall, man, I have Zach, thanks to Zach, I kind of have like my hopes are like, I'm more positive about the whole experience again. And then tonight, like, I'm just thinking, okay, I think it's going to be New Wave against Atos, right?
Yep.
Okay, like, dude, that's going to be sick because, again, from what we saw last night, Atos was just like more like pressure and like just stay on top and not let the other person do anything. I don't think they're going to be able to really get away with that against New Wave.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm really excited because obviously, again, being a big fan of Giancarlo, I just think that he has the strength and the technique to where you can't just bully him that way. Like, I mean, him against Kainan, like, that's my dream matchup for the night. Like, I want to see that because I think that's going to be that's going to be one of those things where we can point to and be like, dude, like CJI won, obviously, Cade and Andrew Tackett, right? Yeah. This is going to be that for this year.
That will be really interesting. I'm pretty sure that Kynan and Giancarlo competed in the absolute at ADCC last year, and I think Kynan beat him. Or I know Kynan won the whole absolute bracket, and I don't remember if they had a match in that bracket. But yeah, that would be absolutely insane. One thing that Zach and I were talking about this morning is I wonder if there's a difference in the pressure of having to like perform for your team versus perform for yourself. Like last year, the way it was structured, there was like an hour and a half to 2 hours between matches. So if you were the first match of the night, which I think Nicky Rod was last year, 2 hours later, he had another match. And so if you know you have 2 hours and there's 90 seconds left on the clock, you're like, I'm just going to do absolutely anything possible to submit this guy because I know I got 2 hours to do whatever I want and then come back and compete again. Versus I got 90 seconds on the clock and then I have another 8 minutes. And I don't know if I'm going to survive another 8 minutes. So I might just ice this guy out and have us both get out and then have someone fresh come in. So I don't know if that has played into it also, like some people being a little bit gun shy to like really push the pace, not push the pace, but really go for broke on submissions. But hopefully that'll change today and people really start wiling out and
because it's literally win or go home for everybody at this point. I mean, not that it wasn't yesterday, but now you don't have to come back tomorrow. You have one more match and then you're that close to winning it all. I think we're going to see a lot more people swing for the fences tonight.
I wanted to ask one more thing about the controversial submission. So we had Giancarlo say he didn't tap to Taylor's outside heel hook, which it definitely looked like a tap. And then just a little bit, a couple matches later, we had Bilal, I forget his last name, but Bilal had Gio Martinez in a really, really tight straight ankle lock. And that tap looked even way more deliberate than Giancarlo's. What was your initial thought when you saw that happen?
If you have me in a leg lock and I go 1, 2, 3, I think we'd all agree you can't get any more clear of a tap than that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what he could have been thinking because he also like kind of like stood up and then like, okay, let me ask you this real quick. Cause again, my leg lock game is like really, really bad. In that position, would you extend yourself up to try to defend it? Or would you try to, I don't know, would you try to do something else?
I have no idea. I don't even think I would even let it get that far. I think I would have tapped it before that point, to be honest.
My thing is like, in what world would you try to extend yourself out if you're already locked up? In my opinion, you probably would try to like get some of that extension back or try to get some inside position. I don't know. Again, I would probably, get my own knee ripped out, but trying to roll a certain way, whatever the case is, I can't imagine you would want to be in that bad spot and then be like, yep, I'm going to just go ahead and get on my knees and extend all the way out and then do this motion and then be mad that they stopped the match. That's my opinion. Like, in no such scenario that I want to continue competing, would I give up my position like that and then also find him and tap him 3 times.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I think that one was very clearly a tap. He was pretty much hipping up as if he was in a lot of pain, right? And I think the question I have today is, are either of those two, did they sustain any damage from yesterday, right? Yeah. Are they feeling it? So that would be a clear indicator that obviously they were in a tapping position, and maybe they were thinking that they didn't want to tap, but they definitely did at that point, right? It was already in their mind that they were going for the tap, and maybe they were trying to stop themselves as that was happening.
Yeah.
But there was a reaction with both of them that made them at least start the motion of tapping.
Yeah.
I saw a post that someone had made where they looked at the rules, like what does the IBJJF rulebook say about what a tap is, and they say it has to be 2 to 3 consecutive tapping motions on the body or the floor. And I could see how like some people may look at that and be like, but they didn't tap 3 times, so it's not a complete tap. But I think also there's an aspect of like, if it looks like a tap, or when they say like, if it quacks like a duck, it looks like a duck, it's probably a duck.
Yeah.
If it looks like they tapped, it's probably a tap, and it doesn't make any sense. I don't know what like technique or strategy would be to like bounce your hand off someone's body. Like I could totally see how if someone's like wiggling their hand in position and their fingers do a motion like this, I could see how someone might take that as like, was that a tap, or was he like trying to wiggle his fingers in? But if you like are bouncing your hand on someone's leg and you're in a submission, that looks like a tap. I don't know how else to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
I think with Jean, that's his name?
Giancarlo?
Yeah. I think at least from the perspective of him maybe not tapping, is it was more palming the knee. Right? So if you're trying to do some sort of explosive escape and you're palming the knee to push the knees of your opponent back, yes, maybe you could see that, but it was multiple times.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah. My thing with Giancarlo was like, it was not a very like, if you are trying to play defense, like you're trying to go for like a C grip, like you're doing something, right? You're not with your hands like that, like, he had this motion, right? Like, and then when he did that again, he kind of like backed off and grabbed the other guy's shin. It wasn't like a C grip to this. It was like, and then faded off.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, dude, that was just, again, a crazy moment. Unfortunate, like that it is a little controversial, but I mean, dude, anything can happen, right?
It seemed like after the moment with Giancarlo happened, like the crowd like just turned into just the nastiest haters and booed him so hard. And then in the post comp interview, like as soon as he started talking, I was like, "Boo!" And so maybe this is Giancarlo's heel turn where he comes out and he's like, "I'm taking everybody out. I'm gonna like Danaher put me out first. I'm running through the whole team." If he did that, I'd be like, "Hey, that was worth it."
Respect.
We got heel turn Giancarlo.
Yeah, the heel's gonna just heel hook everybody. That would be sick.
Yeah. So with the taps and all that stuff, Zach, you mentioned like we'll see today maybe like they're walking a little funny, and we see like, oh, he might have actually like got his knee like popped. One thing that I noticed was it seemed like, and I have no idea how often Nicky Rod wears knee sleeves or not, but it did seem a little bit like he was a little bit slower or a little bit less aggressive than
100%.
usual. How did you guys? What was your perspective on that?
So I would equate this to the rule set more so than anything, but I was shocked to see Nicky Rod butt scooting. I didn't see that coming. Right. Last year he ran through everybody and won by submission.
Yeah.
I was surprised to see him not just doing what he does and basically getting into an advantageous position and then locking up some form of a submission. He was kind of playing guard and trying to tie everyone up. And so like that surprised the heck out of me. Yeah. So I was surprised at his approach to the whole thing, which I'm hoping was just because of the rule set and not so much him potentially being banged up.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. I think it's 80% rule set, in my opinion, 20% definitely. He looks slower than he usually is by a decent amount. And I don't know if that was the coaches saying, hey, just take this guy out. Just do what you can to survive. Like, we don't need you getting banged up in order to save yourself for tomorrow, because tomorrow is going to be tap central, right? Who knows? But he looks slow, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think, we could potentially, like, because he's never going to come out and say that he has an injury, right?
Sure.
But I think maybe some point down the road, maybe a couple months, maybe even after, like, before the next one or whatever, we might hear somebody from the team like accidentally slip up on a podcast and be like, yeah, he actually tore something and he still went out there and nobody knew. Just because Nicky Rod's not going to give up. Like, he has too much heart. He has too much will. He has too much, just everything, to not go out there and perform to whatever that level is. He's going to perform to the highest that he can possibly perform.
That's a really good point. Another question I had is, like, we've already seen, I want to know what your guys' like most hopeful matchup was that we may or may not be able to see based on how things went on day one. And then, given with who's still in the tournament today, who is the most exciting matchup for you?
Man, that's going to be hard because, for one, again, like, I'm not too familiar with everybody, so maybe I can cheat off your homework, and if you could tell us what yours
yeah,
are, maybe,
I was gonna say, dog. I don't know.
Top three, yeah. For me personally, is again Giancarlo and the world, and again Kainan, I think would be pretty sick. Honestly, dude, like, again, because of the jiu-jitsu that I'm most interested in. This is why I like training in the gi. I think it's more, in my opinion, I know everybody's going to like, yeah, I think it's more exciting. I think there's a lot more things that you could do when you have grips. I think in my opinion, it's more technical. I've had this gripe with no gi, which is, all right, we're going to get into this scramble and see who comes out on top. Oh, look, the guard's back in again, and you're still trying to pressure pass, and it didn't work. Or, I'm going to lock your leg, right? Because that's what we saw. We saw a lot of people unable to pass guard, and we saw a lot of leg lock attempts. And out of the entire night, there was the 2 or 3 actual submissions. If that was in the gi, like, we could have seen, I don't know how many different, like, types of submissions. I kind of forgot where I was going with all of this, but oh yeah, that's right. To see Giancarlo go up against somebody that's going to kind of do like that pressure passing, and to see his technique just overpower that and get some cool submissions off of that is what I'm most, like, looking forward to.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, a bit of a stand over here. So
hey, there you go. It's all good. You got your DeAndre Corbet rookie card and your Giancarlo playoff jersey, and
I got the throwback, the Mitchell and S. Yeah.
Nice. What about you?
I think the people that I'm most excited to see, I don't know what matchups are going to come out of it, are Joseph and Nicky.
Oh, yeah.
Damn.
Joseph Chen is immense.
He is such a technical beast. I just love watching every single time that he's on the mat. So I'm excited for his matches. Excited for Nicky because obviously last year, right? I want to see him put the pedal to the metal today.
Yeah.
And then, who was the guy that got his foot locked? He was in a heel hook, and it was really bad. He got submitted in a heel hook.
This year or last year?
Yesterday.
Oh.
And his foot, remember how bad it was?
Golly. It was one of the Australians that did it to him, though, right? I think
so.
Oh, yeah. Gio Martinez, the guy that retired afterwards?
No, because he's the one that fit for 10 taps.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Dang it. Sorry, dude. I can't remember who that was.
I can't remember.
I'm curious. The only place I was going with that is I'm curious to see if he's competing today or not.
Oh, because his team won. Damn. Okay.
I believe, right?
Yeah. I think you're right.
Damn.
The Australians lost.
Yeah.
So his team won. So I'm curious to see.
Sorry, I think the Australians won. I think the Australians beat 10th Planet. Team Europe was the one that lost to Atos.
Dang. Okay. Well, whoever that is in the comments, let us know.
Yeah. Check our homework. For us, please. We need a TA to help us out.
We need a fact checker here.
Yeah.
Dang. I think so last year there was a huge beef between ADCC and CJI. Nicky Rod took second at ADCC 2022. He beat Gordon, or he didn't beat Gordon. Gordon beat him. He took second in his weight class, and I think he took second in the absolute also. Then following year, he doesn't do ADCC and he wins CJI. Kainan won gold in his weight class the year Nicky was still in ADCC, but they didn't have a match, I don't think. And then Kynan didn't win the absolute. So they haven't had a match in a long time. The year that they're on, that they would have been like probably primed to meet each other in the finals. Nikki does CJI, Kynan does ADCC. Nikki wins CJI, Kynan double golds at ADCC. So I think with everyone who's left, the dream matchup is Nikki versus Kynan. And then even before the tournament started, I really wanted to see Dante Leon against Mika Galvao again. I think obviously I'm a big Dante fan because he trains at Westside Barbell. He's crazy jack, crazy strong. Super, super cool guy. But they've had 3 matches, at least that I can remember. The first match was at Who's Number One a few years ago, and Mika had one really good armbar attempt, but that was pretty much the only thing that happened. And Dante took him down, I think, 2 more times after that. So based on ADCC rules, Dante should have won, but he lost the match based on Who's Number One rules. Their next matchup at ADCC, Dante was winning, and then they took points away for whatever reason. He was winning, and there was probably like 30 seconds left. And with 30 seconds left, then they took the points away. And so then he had to try to get back ahead, and he wasn't able to get the points back. So he ended up losing that match. So then, and both of those, I was like, man, Dante should have won that one. So then they meet in ADCC last year. Mika wins his weight class. Dante was in the same weight class, but got knocked out in the first round. But then they meet again in the absolute bracket, and Dante submits him. So I was really hoping to see, like, okay, if they're on a team and New Wave has Mika, who could run through a whole team, and I really wanted to see Dante, like, avenge, just get another W against Mika. That would have been awesome, but now we won't be able to see it, which is kind of a bummer.
Yeah, that I do think about all of that. The fact that there's so much talent under one roof right now, and we're going to miss out on so many potential like great matchups like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's every tournament, right? If they all decided to do ADCC, we wouldn't see all of them. But at the same time, like, okay, that guy beat that guy now, so like the tournament aspect of it leads to potential like dream outcomes as well. But I think, yeah, dude, anything could happen. Sending Victor Hugo out there to go up against someone like the 66er, like, would be insane, right? Like,
yeah.
But so that aspect of it is super exciting, because now we're seeing matches that we would never see. That's really cool too.
Yeah.
But again, hopefully, like Zach's been kind of helping me understand. Like, tonight we might see like some of those big home run moments.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So one thing that that you and I noticed this weekend, or this whole week, Master Worlds is also going on. And going into this weekend, I thought that CJI 2 would be just absolutely packed. It's like, we got Master Worlds the same weekend. Everyone's going to stay and show up for CJI 2. But then you and I went to Master Worlds yesterday, and we were talking to some of the people there, and almost everybody was like, "Are you kidding? I'm flying home."
Yeah.
And so, yeah. So, from your perspective, seeing Master Worlds and like everything that was going on, where do you sit as far as, like, do you think there's a big divide, not just in the people that compete in the gi and no gi, which it seems like the gap is widening, but now do you think there's even like a gap in viewership where the people that compete in the gi probably just like are really more into watching gi matches, and the people that compete in no gi are going to be the ones that show up and ball out at CGI?
No, I 100% believe that is happening, especially when you're looking at the jiu-jitsu athlete fan team even that's going to Masters Worlds, IBJJF Masters Worlds. They're older, they train in the gi, they probably have less interest in training no gi, and therefore less interest in watching it. Without you two guys, I would not be here. Like, we had a blast last year. I remember we were walking in and out. It's like, dude, like, guys, what do you think we do this every year? It's like, done. Let's do this. Yep. Like, I love that. Without that, I wouldn't be here. Right. Like, first year had a really cool opportunity with Merrick Health to be, in the VIP section. This year, that opportunity wasn't there, but to hang out with you guys, like, I don't really care. Like, we're going to do this. When it comes to watching stuff on TV, I will still watch whatever it is if it's convenient. But I am more likely to be like, like, okay, I'll throw it on and then I'll go do something else, like, you know, like cleaning or whatever, you know, anything else other than just like locked in, like if it's like a football game or something. Substitute that with like the gi, watching Ensema on, you know, just like on Flow, watching like Worlds or watching anything, right? Watching, you know, it's just like the adult division.
Mhm.
I will sit down and like cancel plans to watch that. I won't do the same for anything else. Although I might do that for ADCC now because I'm just like a bigger fan of it. But I think that is the biggest reason why there wasn't the crossover. If it was that crowd at Masters Worlds and then some type of gi event, I think we would have had a lot more crossover. Because when you take everything into consideration, and then your buddy talked about this too. I can't remember his name right now, but it's like, okay, we're gonna probably get here. Some guys competed Thursday, some guys competed Friday, Saturday. All right, so we're gonna potentially start our stay Wednesday or Thursday night. Okay, now we're talking, I'm going to stay Saturday, I'm going to stay Sunday, I'm going to leave Monday. So that 3-day trip now is turning into 6 days to watch an event that I might not be the biggest fan of. Right? I train in the gi, I watch the gi, I study the gi. I don't know if I want to stay for no gi stuff.
Yeah.
The cost of this week now doubled, potentially even more. Like, that, yeah, I guess that is like a pretty big pill to swallow when you look at all things considered. However, my thought is like, dude, you're already here. You came from somewhere.
Yeah.
All you have to do is stay another night at least to watch it, or 2 nights to watch it. You might as well stay, because it's like, dude, the first one was historical. I would assume the second one's going to be just as historical. Plan that all out in your whole trip, you know. I was surprised that so many people were saying that they're leaving, though. I, in my opinion, if I competed, yes, I do want to get home. I want to, you know, hopefully not have to lick my wounds, but if something happened, I would want to be home. But after I compete, I feel so good, dude. I'm walking just on cloud 9. Like, I feel great. I would love to be able to say I competed and then, you know, go through all that and then just go enjoy more jiu-jitsu, right? Like, how much fun would that be? Like, I can't think of a better scenario than that. So I am, kind of surprised that less people did it, but I also understand.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
For you, Zach, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you watched any jiu-jitsu live. Like, the last time you watched live jiu-jitsu was at ADCC and CJI, and then this is the next one. Have you watched anything in between?
I've watched singular matches when they pop up on my feed, but that's it.
So for you, do you feel like seeing it live is spoiled watching it live at all? Like, seeing Andrew Tackett versus Kato Tolo live and everyone just losing their freaking mind to then sit on your phone and be like, this is live right now and I gotta pay Flow Grappling to watch this. I'll wait for it to show up on Instagram later.
Yeah, so this is actually super interesting, and I'm gonna kind of turn it over to you guys because you know the history a little bit better than me. But from a half foot in, half foot out perspective, it seems at a fundamental level, it's almost a culture shift because there's such deep-rooted culture in the gi as Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And now as no-gi has started becoming more and more popular, it's almost like these promotionals and how it's presented is a totally different sport almost. And I think there might be some resentment on the people that are just absolutely, you know, indoctrined with like, Brazilian jiu-jitsu is in the gi and it's not done for monetary compensation. It's done as a betterment of oneself and everything like that. So now they're seeing the direction that maybe the no-gi community is trying to take it with all the excitement and the lights and the fire and the sparkles and everything. And how do you guys feel about that? I mean, because from my perspective, that's why I got into it. And that's why I really started enjoying it, was because there's more excitement and because I came from the wrestling background, which we don't have a gi in, right? But it does feel that way sometimes with some of the older heads, and they're like, "That's just, you know, it doesn't even count as jiu-jitsu, you know, that's a totally different sport."
I don't know. I kind of go back and forth on this because my first introduction to any combat sports ever was watching the UFC, and I think it was Rampage Jackson versus Vanderlei Silva, and he knocked him out so bad. And and before the ref could stop it, he put his hand on his throat and just boom, blasted him like 2 more times. I remember watching that and being like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. And so I think that has almost set a precedence of like entertainment to me matters. I was going to say a little bit more, but if I'm being honest, I think it matters a lot more than like the art aspect, which I did do martial arts as a kid and when I was younger, and there is some of that, but I think like entertainment goes a long way. And I think, I know you've seen this, like with all the work that you did and are still doing with Power Project, like the powerlifting meets that came in and made it exciting were so dope compared to like Olympic weightlifting where they just like golf clap when someone throws 500 pounds over their head. It's like, what are we doing? Like, this should be way more exciting.
Yeah.
But then they do powerlifting meets where they like got walkout music.
Dude, that was the coolest shit.
Flames and all this stuff. It's awesome.
Have it anything where you have your own walkout music, sign me up. That's the coolest thing ever. We even talked about that last time. But what I want to ask you, Josh, this, sorry to kind of like skid around the original question is gi versus no gi very similar in America versus other countries the way American football versus like soccer is, right? Like here in America, nobody freaking cares about soccer. But in other countries, it's literally the biggest sport in the world. In America, we love American football. In other countries, nobody really cares. I mean, they care, but it's nowhere near the same amount of just total like fanatics that we are here. So is that the same thing where like American jiu-jitsu and no-gi is huge here, right? Like you have literally everybody that's like coming up in like 20s and younger or 20 to 30 years old. They all want to do no-gi. Nobody wants to do it in the gi anymore. But is that only here in America? And if we go to another country, it's like, oh, we don't do that here.
I don't know. I might be the wrong person to ask because I honestly couldn't care less about football or soccer. And I don't know anything about those sports, but I do. Like, as I've talked to more people, when I talked to Robert Sykes on his podcast, he had said something. He had said like he's done a little bit of jiu-jitsu, but he said he's noticed like a huge spike in popularity of jiu-jitsu. And I was telling him that I started jiu-jitsu 8 years ago, and 8 years ago I would go to Christmas and I'd like talk to my aunts and they'd be like, "Oh, mijo, like what are you up to?" And it's like, "Oh, I'm doing jiu-jitsu." And they'd be like, "Oh, is that like karate?"
Yep.
And they'd make like punching moves, and I'd have to tell them like, no, it's not like karate, it's like wrestling, but there's like other stuff involved, and it just flew right over their head. Like, I don't know, I got no idea what you're talking about. But then fast forward to today, I can talk to a complete stranger and they'll say like, "Oh, well, what are you into?" And I say, "Oh, I do strength and conditioning for jiu-jitsu and stuff," and they immediately know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And when they talk about it, a lot of times they're talking about a no-gi clip that they saw. And so I think sometimes like if you started jiu-jitsu pre-2020, you might have more of an inclination to focus a little bit more on the gi, or if your instructor has like the vast majority of their jiu-jitsu experience pre-2020, maybe there is like a little bit more emphasis on the gi. And then people that are coming into jiu-jitsu post-2020, at least I think, like my bro statistics would be that a lot more people are probably seeing these no-gi clips then starting to get into it.
Yeah, I think that's 100% like accurate right there. Even though, so like I've only been training for like two years in change, but my thing was like, I did try no-gi, and I've only done no-gi less than 10 times, but like, more than 6. Every time I do it, I get kicked in the nuts. Just every single time. I will get into headquarters because like that's all I know, and then like I'll try just like simple passes, and every time it's like, again kicked in the nuts. So I just haven't had a great experience with it. But anytime we have open mat and there's some younger guys that walk in, or like newer guys, they usually don't have a gi. Like
Mm.
they just like, oh shoot, didn't know it was gi. And then we're always like, oh dude, it's cool. Like, we'll take our, our gi top off and, get some rounds in. But yeah, that's a fair assessment. Like, oh, how long you been training? It's like, oh, it's been about a year. Or I did wrestle in high school and now I'm doing this. And then if they're, a younger guy, they're just younger. So like they couldn't have started 10 years ago. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
I think that is like probably the most accurate assessment. Yeah.
I asked you this a couple of weeks ago, but just to put it on wax, when was the last gi class you took?
Really put me on blast. It was 2022 before my competition.
So 3 years ago.
3 years ago. Yeah.
And do you have
I
any
still
desire to
think about
do
that day.
do another gi
Hell
class?
no. No.
Yeah, I will say that I get it though. I fully understand why more people are doing no-gi, because it is more, in my opinion, it can be really exciting to like go for some of those shots. So like me and my boy Chris, we literally had our laptop open on the mat and we're going through Gordon Ryan's leg lock series.
Nice.
And so we're kind of going back and forth. We're doing things and it's like, okay. And then my very first round of no-gi after that, I'm going for heel hooks. Didn't get any successfully, but scared the shit out of the guy that I almost got. And I was just like, whoa, like, then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, okay, let's start working this way more often. And then I had to, slow my roll when I got kicked again. But I get it though, right? Because it's like you're constantly you're taking those shots. But again, if there's a gi there, it's like now I have so many, in my opinion, so many more options, at least for myself. And again, I just turned 40, so I would have an impossible time trying to slow either of you guys down. But if you have something for me to grab onto, it's like, well, now I got a chance. I could lock something up and potentially do something. Even like your buddy Bill, right? He competed yesterday at Worlds. He wasn't in the worst of spots, but he was on bottom. He was down by points. Okay, he grabbed his opponent's lapel, and now he's going for a cross collar choke. If there was no gi there, he would have got smashed and lost. Now it's all like, dude, you actually have a chance to win this.
That's a good point. I haven't really thought of it that way, that it may present more opportunities because there's more stuff to grab. But I think like because there is more stuff to grab, and Zach, you can, speak to whether you feel the same way. I feel like it's not as stimulating. Like, how like sometimes when you look at the way some people do bodybuilding training, it's like really slow and like, methodical, and like just the tempo or like beats per minute is just lower. And then you look at like how some powerlifters train and they're doing like speed bench and they got chains on there. There's something about that that's just a little bit more exciting. Even if they're doing the exact same movement or the exact same motion, there's a way to make it a little bit more exciting. And sometimes I feel like with training in the gi, because there's more grips, it does slow things down to a point where it's not that it can never be fun. It definitely can, but more often than not, it's like just a little bit too slow, at least to be stimulating, if that makes sense. Do you feel the same way?
I definitely feel the same way. And I think a lot of that is because of the wrestling background for us. And similar with you asking me whether or not I want to do a gi class, I think a lot of that is like what you were saying, Andrew. If I start finding some success with the gi, then I think I would have some more fun. But I just get smoked every time, and I never see it coming because they'll throw part of their gi behind my back and choke me out. And at the same time, with what you're saying, it's like we were just sitting there for 2 minutes, and now all of a sudden I'm choked out, and I almost didn't get any sort of respiratory stimulus or muscle stimulus. Like that's half of the reason that I started doing jiu-jitsu in the first place, was just get back to a point where I could use it as kind of cardio or some form of exercise, whereas in the gi it just feels like I don't get a whole lot out of it from that perspective.
Yeah, really hard to argue against what you guys said, right? Because we could watch a no-gi match and it, like Tackett versus Ruotolo, right? And dude, this is the best match I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. But then you could also see matches like that we've seen last night where it's like, okay, he couldn't pass, he couldn't submit, cool.
Yeah.
Exact same thing in the gi, right? And I 100% agree. It does slow things down. If you're just smoking me and you're getting right past my guard, if I wrap you up, I just don't let go.
Mm-hmm.
Right? How many matches have I know I've seen a bunch where like I get one advantage on you,
Yeah.
and the next thing you know, it's like, oh, I just hang on,
Yeah.
and I win. Like that sucks.
Yep.
But then I've also seen other matches like this is absolutely cherry picking, but like Mighty Mouse, you know how he's like winning that brown belt, won absolutes right against that big dude.
Yeah.
Did that, like he flipped over and got an arm bar. Like that was like, oh my gosh, like that's incredible. I'm also a gigantic fan of Hodger Gracie. Like so simple, right? That's always his thing. Jiu-jitsu simple. Your arm locks this way, this way, and this way. That's all you do. I'm like, oh, that's it. But again, watching his matches, very basic, very simple, but like you can't stop him. And it's just like, it's beautiful jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
That shit gets me really fired up too. So I would say I agree with you guys more in saying that Nogi's going to be more exciting, especially for the vast majority of people. If my dad's 70 something years old, if I show him gi, he's going to probably fall asleep. If I show him no gi, he's going to be confused and not understand what's going on, but at least he can see dudes, you know, scrambling and that sort of thing. So yeah, I think, I have no argument against it. I will just say like, we've definitely seen great matches in both. And I'm just happy that I'm a fan of both because I get to watch all of them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I had a question for you, Zach. You said you started jiu-jitsu because you wanted to use it as a way to like improve some of your fitness and improve some of your athletic capacity. At what point did you start to realize that it degrades your body more than like serve your body?
Pretty early. I think I came in and for context, I was rolling against he was either a brown belt just getting his black belt or he already had just gotten his black belt at the time. But the first double leg shot that I took, I got guillotined so hard I could barely breathe for the next 3 minutes, and I was like, oh, okay, so this isn't just going to be light on the body, you know, this is going to be real rough on you. So I think it was right away, and that's part of where, you know, you can still control the pace in no-gi, but I do think that's a disadvantage. If your opponent is pushing, it's much harder to be able to control the pace and to slow things down if that's what your body is needing that day.
For me, it was so every time I've competed, I've walked away with I've limped away with a pretty like legit injury that's like set me back pretty far, to the point where the first time I competed, I have 0 takedowns. So like I gotta train takedowns. I hired my buddy Kendall Frank, who's just a freaking savage wrestler. Like, hey coach, I need help with takedowns. Did an amazing job, but I took a shot on my training partner. And again, I have no idea what I'm doing, but my head went straight into his like thigh. Like I totally missed on the double. And like, I just like, that sounded different. It was like almost, man, if I had like a glass vial and I just dropped it right here on this floor, where it was like a high pitch, I should be okay. It was not okay.
Oh no.
So like that was just in training, right? And then, you know, competition, I got jacked up. Last year, I'm still like trying to recover from my ankle. It was like, dude, huge. And so that made me step back and think like, okay, dude, like you're still just a blue belt. You're still barely learning all this stuff. Like you're also 40 years old. Maybe competing's not the thing you should be worried about. And so like I've had to take a step back and like, okay, jiu-jitsu isn't life. Although it's a part of life, it's not all of life. And, you know, I had to learn the hard way of like, no, I'm taking it easy. You know, I'm only going to jiu-jitsu like 3, 4, 5, 6 times a week. Like we're good. Like, trust me, I'm going real easy. I can handle it. And now what that did was it snowballed like the injury, like, a little tweak here, a little tweak there. It's just a little limp. And like, that limp led to a swollen knee. And now like my back's kind of coming back, like the back pain's coming back. And so I had to like, all right, dude, like you're not going to ever like, you know, go pro in this. This isn't going to, push your business forward. That was like the main thing. Like this isn't really going to help your family. The reason why I got into it was one, like, again, be more confident in myself, but I wanted to do it so that way it became normal, right? We exercise, we eat right, and we do jujitsu. So when my son's growing up, what do? We eat right, we exercise, we do jujitsu.
Yeah.
That he was the last straw for me to get started. So I had to kind of go back and be like, okay, why did we get into this? It's so that way my son follows my footsteps, right? So now I'm like, okay, I just got to stay in the sport, not train so hard that I make my own exit, So for me, it was like, okay, I don't know if competing really is the thing I should be focused on, because every time I do, it sets me back a long time. And here we are a year later, and I'm still trying to figure out some of these injuries. Granted, I'm not putting like the most emphasis on getting back, to like 100%, but at the same time, it's like, all right, I'm good enough to go train. Like, I'd be okay. And then now, like, but now that 3 days a week went down to 2. Now, because of work, it's down to 1.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, all right. Understand that, like, yes, we can reverse our age. We don't have to be the old person. But at the same time, I can't ignore some of these injuries. It's like, I gotta, like, be smart about all training, not just like, okay, I eat right, so I'm good. I lift, I'm good. Jiu-jitsu, let's go. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way, bro. Like, we have to do it on in all facets of life.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, if you want. So, because obviously this is your profession, right? But where do you find the line between using jiu-jitsu as an amazing way for general preparedness and athleticism, mobility, so on and so forth, but not crossing over into that turning into injuries? Because I know you love to roll hard, right? So rolling hard innately has some sort of risk there for injury. However, a lot of jiu-jitsu can be looked at in a positive light for athleticism, preparedness, your gas tank, so on and so forth. So where is that line for you? How do you find that?
I think I remember, I don't know, Andrew, if you were there for this, but Mark Bell had said, we were talking with him, and he had said a problem with powerlifting is that the training is the sport. And so you squat, bench, deadlift, you squat up and down a million times, and then you do it as heavy as possible, and hopefully don't blow your back out. And then you do the same thing with bench press. You do a million up and down presses and hope your pecs don't rip off your bone. You do the same thing with it's so powerlifting can be monotonous, but a lot of times the best powerlifters are the guys that are doing so much other stuff outside of just powerlifting. So where they get away from just having the training be the sport and vice versa. And I think with jiu-jitsu guys, when they make the mistake of like the jiu-jitsu is the sport, and I'm going to try to tack on all these additional benefits. It's also going to be my conditioning. It's also going to be my strength work, because there's like a lot of pulling and all that stuff. I think that's where guys run into problems, because they may get some like initial feedback as a beginner of how difficult it is before the injuries start piling on, and before like some of the overuse injuries. And I remember even like as a white belt thinking like, man, I feel great, and I can, do jiu-jitsu, have that be my conditioning. But then like you do it long enough, and it's like, man, to make jiu-jitsu be part of my conditioning, I got to roll really, really, really hard. And if I'm rolling really, really hard, like, not that every time you roll hard you get injured, because I don't think that happens, but there has to be some other stuff than just rolling hard to help me be prepared to roll hard. So I don't know if there's like a specific line, because I think it also depends like where you come from. Yesterday at Masters Worlds was really interesting, seeing all the different people, all the different body types, all the different age groups, and all the people that were competing. And we were talking with someone yesterday who Master Worlds was his very first competition ever.
Wow. Yeah.
Which was
crazy.
awesome.
That's amazing.
And he won one match and then lost his second one. And I was asking him some questions about like how he's been feeling and stuff. And he's been putting in a ton of work in the gym. He's been putting in a ton of work, like doing his mobility and all that stuff. And so he really, built some athleticism to be able to get to Master Worlds. And so I think, when you're 40 years old or 45 years old, you may be a 45-year-old where jiu-jitsu is the only athletic thing you've done in the last 20 years. You may also be a 45-year-old that wrestled in college. After college, you did triathlons, you did all these other things, and jiu-jitsu is just one more sport that you're adding on this long history of sports and athletic development. And those two guys, even though they weighed in the same weight, they wear the same colored belt, and they're the same age group, are completely different.
Yeah.
And so I think I don't know if necessarily there's like a line that you cross over where jiu-jitsu is beneficial to your body and then it immediately crosses over to being harmful to your body. But I think it's just like anything else. Too much of a good thing could lead to some problems. And if you don't supplement that, or you pigeonhole yourself, just like the powerlifting example, that might be an extreme example. If you only squat, bench, deadlift, that's going to have some problems.
Yeah.
But if you squat, bench, deadlift, and you do some rope flow, and you do some bodybuilding work, and you do some mobility work, and you mix in some jiu-jitsu, and you do a few sprints here and there, and you do some other stuff, like, you're going to be all right. So if you only do jiu-jitsu, that's probably a problem. If you mix it in with a lot of other stuff, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah, I think it takes a lot of self-awareness and just understanding like your own body. Because when I came in, again, Masters 2, I came with a background of like powerlifting, of like bodybuilding and like rope flow, like all these like really, really good habits, going up against other, Masters 2 athletes that, again, probably haven't competed in a long time. They didn't live in the gym the way I did. So I came in the game really, really strong for my age and weight class and all that stuff. Moved really well. So I was like, dude, like, this is perfect. Like, I happen to weigh exactly where I need to weigh, so I don't have to cut or gain. Like, it was like, dude, I had all the cards in my favor. So I thought I was just like, I'm just gonna keep doing what I do. I'm gonna lift 3 times a week. I'm gonna do jiu-jitsu 3 times a week. I'm gonna do mobility on Sunday. Like that's life. And then it's like, damn, I'm getting wrecked. Like, I keep getting hurt. I was not being honest with myself. Had I had the self-awareness to be like, all right, dude, pump your brakes just a little bit here, I think I would have been in much better shape. Would the progress in my jiu-jitsu have been, the trajectory, maybe like a little bit slower progress, maybe, but I'd probably have I'd be in a better spot right now.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So again, I think the self-awareness piece is huge when trying to find that line, because it would be impossible for Josh to tell me where my line is and also tell you where your line is, right? I would have to actually be the one to tell him where that line could be.
Yeah. Yeah. That kind of prompts another question. Zach, say how long you've been doing jiu-jitsu, and then a question that I think is really interesting is say the thing that you've changed, like the biggest thing you've changed your mind on over the span of time you've been doing jiu-jitsu. Or maybe not like the biggest thing, but the most recent thing you changed your mind on.
Changed my mind as in had a perspective, and now I think totally different about that certain thing.
Yeah, so like over your entire jiu-jitsu experience, like all that together, what's the big thing that you've changed your mind on?
That's a great question. So my history in jiu-jitsu is I actually started, I think, tail end of 2021 while COVID was still somewhat prevalent, but we were able to go back into the actual gym and start working with, I think, small groups of people. And so I only did it once a week. That was my plan. It was once a week. And I did that for about a year. I might be off by a year. Might have started the end of 2020. When were we able to go back into the gym?
After my wife and I got married, I still think we were in groups. So we got married in 2021.
Okay, so 2021, and then 2022 rolls around, and I was going a little bit more and doing some gi classes to get prepped for the competition that I was doing. And then I fell off for maybe 3 or 4 months because work got super, super busy. And then I got back into it. But when I got back into it, I think my big change of perspective was rather than treat this as a cardio session and I'm just going to fall back on my muscle memory that I have from wrestling, which still just ends up getting me smoked in all these matches, which I was fine with. Like I knew I wasn't necessarily progressing to high level jujitsu because I was doing it so infrequently. So that's been the biggest perspective change in my mind, is like, okay, we're only doing it 2 days a week. I sometimes get a supplemental day, so maybe 3 days a week right now. But actually having some intent behind learning the skills of jiu-jitsu and applying that on a daily basis during my training, right? Mm. So that's been really huge, taking a mindset, and it's actually made it a whole lot more fun for me of now I'm working and progressing towards certain goals, whether that be, I used to never be able to get into an armbar position. Now I can actually get into the position, but I lose it 99 times out of 100, and bringing that from 99 down to I only lose it, 10 out of 100 times, right? So being able to progress, and also seeing how much safer you can make the sport for yourself when you actually know how to do the techniques properly and defend against proper technique has been a big mindset shift for me as well. Because before, I wouldn't know how to defend against a knee bar or anything like this. And so I would have to rely on a partner to tap for me, and I would let them know. But now it's like, okay, I know I can let this go a little bit longer and still be safe. So that's been really cool.
What you mentioned, I think, is huge. And I think that ties into what you had just said, like finding that line for yourself. Mm-hmm. Like there's like a million positions between positions, if that makes sense. Like we know what mount looks like and we know what closed guard looks like. But there's like an infinite amount of quote unquote positions between those two. And we have moves to like get from one point to the other. But I think what you just said, knowing your body well enough, and kind of like what you had said of knowing that line of like, I know because of this ankle injury, my ankle doesn't bend that far. And if it's not a move, it's not an ankle lock, but it's like caught in this weird spot where it's like stuck under this guy's hip. I'm just going to try to like relax and let this guy move forward, because I know my ankle isn't going to bend any more than it's being bent right now. I think I'm really glad you said that, because I think a lot of people need to hear that more.
Yeah, like with your knee, right? I know there's been a couple times where it's been a surprise tap on my end where you're just like, hey, I'm not going to mess with this position because I've already been hurt in a position similar to this before. Yeah. So having that wherewithal with your own body is part of the line, I guess.
For sure.
Yeah.
When did you start jiu-jitsu, and what's the biggest thing you've changed your mind on since then?
Yeah, so I'm like around like 2.5 years in. So again, like it was always around me, but I was kind of like avoiding it. Right, like we'd have, again, like this was how I know like someone like Giancarlo, someone like Nicky Rod, obviously Mason Fowler, and obviously Nsima. I'm around really great jiu-jitsu athletes, but it was just like, man, I don't know. Like, I don't think that's for me. Like, again, like being in close contact with a big sweaty dude. And then you look at dudes getting triangled and it's like, do you got balls on your face? Like, I don't know. Like, this doesn't seem like a really fun sport for me. But there was a couple of, I won't go through all of them, but there's just a lot of things that like jiu-jitsu became undeniable for me. And then again, like I said, my son was born. So it's like, all right, last straw. This might not pertain to like, especially the audience that's watching right now, but this is more for the person that's on the fence with jiu-jitsu, because I was always on the fence, so that like, I want to do it, but like, I don't know. Again, maybe this is because like I grew up watching like Karate Kid and like all these other like, like movies where like that gym is like, that culture is, it's just a bunch of bullies that are beating each other up. And I thought jiu-jitsu was the same way. I thought every school was just, hey, you're going to come in, you're going to fight everybody. And if you survive, then you become one of us. And then now you beat up everybody else. You don't survive, you're not good here. Right. So I thought it was like this literal fight club. Come to find out, it's just a freaking bunch of great dudes, and we're all kind of nerdy. We're all like, especially like, where I train in the morning, everybody leaves there to go back to work. Everybody has a family, there's a couple young guys come in every once in a while, but for the most part, the morning classes are full of people that are just like me. We have families, we got work we got to do. So nobody's there to really try to like take anyone out. once I realized that, I started getting more comfortable with it to the point where I did start competing. Like that's really cool. And the community, like I have two of my best friends now because of that. Like so my boy Chris Shaw, Chris Robertson, like we're in these text threads that have been going on for over 2 years now. Like as at that point almost 40-year-old, you don't really make friends at that age anymore, right? And so it's like here I am, like we're like going camping together, doing all these cool things. And I was like, dude, I was way off. I thought it was like a fight club, and it's like, no, it's like, yeah, it's like an extended family. And so that was really cool. And then, so outside of that, like on the physical side and the jiu-jitsu side, it's like, yeah, maybe I'm not made out of glass. Again, being a timid person, my whole life, being the youngest of the family, so always being the smallest. And then coming up with Mark Bell and everybody at Super Training, I was always the weakest, always the smallest, always the least experienced. So I was always around killers, like since the beginning of time, right? And so I've always thought like I didn't have what everyone else had. But then all of a sudden you get your first submission, or you almost get tapped and you get out of it, or you win your first match at a competition. And I was like, whoa, like I didn't know I had this in me, and then for me personally, it's like, okay, now like the legacy aspect of it, it's like, hey son, look what we're capable of. Not that my dad's not a savage, but like his days of fighting were over by the time I came around. I would hear stories about like street fights and stuff, and it's like, oh, that's cool. But if I had watched it, I'd be like, oh shit, like that's what we do too. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So different time, right? Like that's totally a different era where like dudes would get drunk and have to get in fights. But yeah, so that for me personally was like the biggest like breakthrough is like one, the confidence, and then understanding that like we all got our own lives. Nobody's actually trying to kill you, but we all learning how to kill each other.
Yeah.
And we're kind of playing this game of like, hey, like, all right, we're gonna fight to the death. But just before death, I'm going to tap and you're going to let go. You promise? Like, yep. Okay, cool. All right, let's go. And then after that, right, like after you have a really good round, like that bell rings and you just look at your training partner, you're like, dude, that was sick.
Yeah.
Like you just the biggest high fives or whatever, and you're just like, dude, thank you so much for that incredible round where I thought I was going to die.
Yeah.
Now I can look forward to the rest of the day and be like, this is all easy, So, so yeah.
That's incredible, man. It is, I know I've mentioned this before, but it is awesome to see, like, I met you in 2018, and then like every year it seemed like you got a little bit closer. Like the peer pressure just kept increasing and increasing and increasing. And then, to see, like, I remember you telling me, like, yeah, I started taking like a couple classes here and there with Charlie and the guys at Waz and stuff. It's like, okay, just stick with it. Like, just keep going. And so it's awesome to see what that's turned into. And now, like, your son is almost at the age to start like doing something. So yeah, it's just been pretty dope to see.
Yeah, it was funny because again, the Dang Power Project kept putting these conversations into my life. But I remember, like, again, another last straw moment was Bezos Koulian. He was talking about how he took, like, he called it MMA class or something like that, where he had to like do this like boot camp or whatever. It was like a challenge. But in that, he worked with a jiu-jitsu coach for like 2 weeks. And then they're flying back from Hawaii, and this dude just loses it. He's on some kind of medication, but he's just like belligerent. He's saying, I'm going to kill everybody on this plane, going nuts. And he's like, I have my whole family on this plane. I need to figure, like, okay, what the heck? Like, we need to figure out something. So he talks to the stewardess or whatever they're called. I don't know what's politically correct these days. Talk to the person that's working on the plane. Like, hey, what's going on? Do you need help? And she's like, yeah, the only thing we can do is ask him to put on these like zip tie restraints.
Oh, dang.
They're not allowed to do it themselves, which is insane, right? But also, like, again, they have a job. They're not police officers and stuff. And so they're like, yes, can you please help us? Like, encourage him to put it on. So he stands up. The crazy guy recognizes it. And so now he's even more fired up because he's like, oh, you think you're going to do something? Like, I'm going to kill you and blah, blah, blah. the short 2 weeks of jiu-jitsu experience helped him subdue that guy, get him on the floor. I think he said he had him in like a rear naked choke, but he was like, all I could think of was the headlines, Bedros Keuilian kills a dude on a plane. So he got into a different position, but after that, some other guys stepped up, and then that's how they restrained him. And so he protected his whole family, right, because of a little bit of jiu-jitsu. And I'm like, that's it, dude. We're going all in.
That's dope.
And after that, I contacted my buddy Charlie Zamora, and I'm like, hey, dude, like, where can I train? And then so he's like, funny enough, we just started one at Warriors. And I'm like, okay, cool, which was taught by Chris Robertson.
Nice.
Right. So, like, again, that's how it all just like one domino, like, after another. It was just like, okay, now I'm a jiu-jitsu guy. So that's how
that's incredible.
Yeah, that's so cool. Especially
awesome.
A little bit older in life, right? Like understanding, I think everybody should be able to experience once in their life that, you know, there's the nail and the hammer analogy, but you know, you're not going to die if you're the nail in a controlled setting, right? So if you can get comfortable being the nail, at some point you can become the hammer. But if you never even take the step to have the hammer beaten up on you and be the nail, then you'll never be comfortable. And it's going to lead to some big misfortune if you ever get in bad positions in life.
Yeah. I was never that guy that would be watching UFC acting like I could do anything against those guys, but I never had the experience, period, you know? And then, you're right. Again, after only a couple months of getting, you know, my ass handed to me, but then also like kind of getting like the distance awareness and like also like learning frames and that sort of thing. We were at the mall in Sac, and this freaking crazy guy just starts coming up to my family, and he's just like, I forgot what he was saying. He was like pointing at my daughter, talking about how they're going to take her and like all these weird, like, it was like, very, very uncomfortable. I got in front of him, created distance, and like he went from like crazy, like aggressive to me like blocking him and get like okay, hey, this is about to happen, and like instantly his like whole like eyesight changed, and he like woke up from whatever trance he was thinking he was in, and then he started like backing up. Without jiu-jitsu, I probably would have panicked, and who knows, maybe potentially started attacking him or trying to do something, right? Because it was a bad situation. Stayed calm, took care of it, and then that was it. We went on our way. Without jiu-jitsu, I wouldn't have been able to do that. Wow. Yeah. Again, nothing happened, but without jiu-jitsu, maybe something would have happened. And then it's like, who knows? You know, maybe that guy had a weapon on him or something, but it was freaking crazy. And then when he realized the crazy didn't impact me at all, it went away. It was weird. Dang. He went from like, that's awesome. He went from like a trance of like, like a crazy like monster to like seeing me that I'm like, hey dude, like back up. And just like, and then he just like walked away. It was weird. Wow. Crazy. That's awesome. Yeah. That's freaking sick. Yeah. Thanks for letting me share that. Yeah. Start rambling on.
Oh, you're good. You're good. Yeah. You're good. So last thing I wanted to ask you guys, since we got to head out here in a little bit for day 2, the next matches we got are B team versus Team Australasia in the semis. And then on the other side of the bracket, we got Team New Wave versus Team Atos. So between B team and Australasia, who do you think is going to take it?
Yeah, I'm going B team.
I think B team by a slight margin.
Yeah. Okay. All right. You think we're going to see more submissions in that match or less?
I think that's a tough matchup. I think they have very similar styles based off what I was seeing yesterday. So I honestly don't think there's going to be many, if any, submissions.
Yeah. Okay. I think whichever team gets one leg up, whether that means, oh man, it looks like they got more submission attempts. Although I will say Australasia, is that how you say it? I think they are going to have to do 3 times the amount of work to basically dethrone B team. We're on their home turf, or they are on their home turf. It's their event, regardless of however you want to look at it. It's just going to be biased. Sure. So they have to win convincingly. If B team simply gets a couple of solid submission attempts, they can then just cancel each other out, and they're going to go to the final.
All right. So on the other side of the bracket, there's New Wave and Atos.
Yeah, I'm setting up the dream scenario, so it's going to be New Wave. Yeah.
All right.
I was same book, same page of the book. Yeah.
All right.
What about you?
I think I agree with you guys. I think Australasia has they got Fabricio Andre at 66, and Fabricio Andre is incredibly good. And I think he could maybe like turn the tide a little bit. Like he could, depending on where he's lined up, he might be able to beat some, like maybe he'll be able to submit somebody, or at the very least, like get someone really strong off the board. 2 ADCCs ago, he fought Victor Hugo, and I don't remember if he got submitted or not. So like, that's crazy. If you could take Victor Hugo out, being the small guy, like that could definitely change some stuff. But I agree with you guys. I think B team wins. Atos and New Wave, I don't know. Like that could be really tough because Diego Pato's super strong, and Diego Pato could definitely do some damage with leg locks, and he's on Atos's team. And so, and it also depends if Giancarlo's injured or not. So we'll see what happens. But ideally, it would be cool to see B Team and New Wave in the final.
So simply based off day one, I wanted to ask you guys just if you could supplement or add anything to the rule set to make it a little bit different than it was, maybe a little more exciting, whatever it might be. Is there something you could see adding that would provide more excitement or provide a better setting for these types of matches?
I was hoping that they would alternate between who calls out the next person. That would have, I think, changed a whole lot.
100%. Yeah. Or even potentially, although maybe this isn't the answer, but it's sort of like, all right, you know, coach, you have your athlete. Coach, you have your athlete. Okay, what are they? You submit them, and then that's when they go, right? Because I feel like if you call your heavyweight, I'm now not going to call my lightweight. Like, there's no way.
Oh,
but if I'm like, shoot, okay, in the rotation, okay, I think I want to do, you know, my 66er right now. I'm going to go for it. And then all of a sudden you call out your plus 99 and it's like, oh, I totally messed up. So that kind of messes up a little bit of the strategy, but I think it also adds this weird variable where you're like, it's just kind of like pick of the draw. Like, I think that could definitely change things.
So you're saying the first, you're saying the first match, like with a fresh duel, both guys are anonymous until they walk out, and then they start picking after that.
Because then
just
it's like,
the first one.
For sure the first one, but then potentially the next ones too. Right.
Well, so if someone stays in, that team doesn't have the opportunity to pick anyone.
That's right. Well, yeah, I guess yes, unless they both get eliminated, then it's like back to like stage one again. And then, so the other thing I was thinking is I would like it if somebody stayed in no matter what. Absolutely no matter what. If that person got the most advantages or the most points or whatever, he stays in no matter what. So that way he either takes out the whole team, or he gets so tired that he eventually gets submitted.
So based off the criteria, him winning criteria, he would still stay in.
Yeah. I don't like the double elimination because I think it leads to the stagnation of, again, I was all for it when it was Pat Downey versus Luke, but when it was other people, it's like, he's just playing to not lose.
Yeah.
Even at the very, very end with Victor Hugo, and I forgot who else the other guy was, it was like, oh, Victor Hugo just has to sit on him and he's going to win, right? Like, that sucks. As opposed to, hey, if you don't do enough, like now you're down to one person, now anything can happen. I think that would have been the better route.
I think that's a really good idea. Like if they had that's one thing I liked about the last CGI and with the women's matches, that they had public scoring. So like you knew at the end of each 5-minute round who won that round.
Yeah.
And so going into the third round, you knew where things were at.
Got to go.
So if they still did it where they only use the judges scoring as criteria if there's a tie, but you always keep someone in.
Yeah.
That's a really good idea. That'd be pretty fun.
Yeah, I think so. Hopefully, I mean, who knows for the next one, like what that looks like. Maybe they're just doing a cage match, like with weapons or something.
Yeah. It's like in Spider-Man when they bring the cage down and Bonesaw comes out.
I was thinking like WWE stuff where it's like anything goes match or whatever.
Limp Bizkit comes out.
Yeah.
And Undertaker comes out on a motorcycle.
American Badass. Yeah, that'd be sick. Yeah, heck yeah. Dude, this was fun, man. Thank you so much for
thank you for having us.
inviting us on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I mentioned it at the beginning, but it is very serendipitous that the last podcast I had, which I had just such a blast doing and then stopped doing, I only had 2 guests on ever, and it was you guys. So it's perfect that the first guests on this podcast are you guys.
Yeah,
so
right on.
thanks for being on.
Appreciate it. Heck
Yeah.
All right, lift heavy, roll hard. Catch you guys later. Peace.